Welcome to Caseback Watches. My name is Tim, and in this episode I'd like to present you my biggest surprises in 2021. 6 timepieces, and if you ask me, all of them are fantastic. Sometimes we are a bit too smart. Then we read specs and we see images and we think, I know that watch. I don't have to try it out, I know it. It's not very exciting, it's not very special. And then the watch arrives, you put it on the wrist and you think, oh my god, it delivers something absolutely fresh, which wasn't in the spec sheet. And yeah, this happened quite some time here in 2021. And so without further ado, let's check out 6 very special timepieces. One of the watches I bought without the intention of producing a video with it. I'm not a big fan of dive watches, but here I found the overall composition of colors and design elements so appealing that it went on the list. I then found it on a forum and bought it without much fuss. I thought, okay, wear it for a summer and then it can go. But it came differently. First, I was pissed about a small scratch on the glass because I had completely overlooked that it was a plexi. I thought, crap, you must replace the sapphire. But then I was very pleased just by the fact that it really was a vintage plexi. And also the manufacturing quality and the performance of the watch was better than expected. I mean, let's face it, this is rather an inexpensive piece. Then I liked the deep blue even better than expected. I noticed also that the case is very interesting. It reveals more different effects from different angles. And then I noticed how much I like the logo. There are these arrows, a bit like the rank insignia on an American uniform, and below that the clearly French-based Lorient. All of this, along with a 200-meter water resistance, gave off an extremely strong 60s Jacques-Yves Cousteau vibe that I really love. Check out the 2060 movie Odyssey or The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou by Wes Anderson and you know what I mean. The Nivada Grenchen Antarctic Spider was one of those watches where I wasn't sure if there was really enough substance. You can of course make videos about pure gimmicks, but I'm not just a YouTuber, I'm also a real watch fan, and usually I have the opportunity to wear the watches for a week or two, which I rarely do. And in this case the watch was on my arm for 2 weeks without a break and I'm wearing it right now. Gimmick or real special feature that stands out, that's a fine line, especially when features interfere with the actual function of the watch. The sector dial is not useful in this form. It's actually supposed to divide the dial to make it easier to read, and that's not the case here. But it's these vertical indices together with the unusual angles of the lines that give the watch an enormous tension. Also, the multitude of reflections and the similar color of the dial and hands are functionally a disaster, but they form a fascinating ensemble. Also surprising was that a sapphire can be the right choice for vintage-inspired watches. The sapphire's typical bluish reflections add something to the general bling-bling here. In that respect, fantastic watch. A Type 20 is a Type 20 is a Type 20. The specifications are set, the layout, the black dial, the sub-dials, the flyback chronograph. After all, we're talking about a pilot's chronograph for the French military of the 50s. And soldiers have little sense for design gimmicks or awkward features. So when a company plans to produce a new edition of the Type 20 chronograph and do it close to the original, there are no surprises left. Every watch nerd knows exactly what the thing will look like. And so when Arain offered me a prototype, I said yes, of course yes, because a Type 20 is a Type 20. But I wasn't particularly excited. Then it struck me that the part had such an authenticity that went far beyond technical fascination. It seemed to me as if someone had put a perfectly preserved vintage car from the museum in front of the door and said, "Have a good trip, sir." Then you think, junk car, this is going to be brutal. And then the classic car drives perfectly. Not like new cars, but in a way that really adds something to your life. And I had the watch for about 10 days, if I remember correctly, and that's how long it was on my arm, non-stop. As said before, I'm not the biggest fan of dive watches, and the guys from Maen seemed a bit too professional to me at first. We all know those marketing phrases from watch companies, right? They have to do that sort of thing, but it can be annoying. Plus, the specs of the watch didn't read particularly exciting. Nothing new, I thought, but a YouTube channel needs fuel, and so I said yes. The watch arrived, the specs were still nothing great, but it immediately went on my arm and stayed there. What surprised me here was the sum of the parts and the complete lack of flaws. I find the logo boring, okay, but everything else works. The hands are supposed to mimic skyscrapers in New York, which was nice to know, but frankly I just liked the shape. The dial was black but nicely curved, so it picked up reflections of the sapphire. The watch had the perfect dimensions for me and the bracelet were great. I felt like I had a well-made €2,000 watch on my arm. I even made a half-hearted attempt not to send it back. That was the watch fan Tim, who then got a slap from the editor Tim and sent it back after all. However, I never saw it as a dive watch, but rather as an urban all-rounder for hard days. I had a few more of these days at the time and the watch came just right. I have to admit I have a weakness for equipment from the Cold War. That's because everything looks pretty retro, but some of it delivers absolutely brutal performance. I mean, think about the US Lockheed Blackbird and the Russian 705, a nuclear submarine better known as Alpha. The Lockheed was optimized against radar beams, flew over Mach 3 fast and reached altitudes of 25,000 meters. The first flight was in 1964. Compare this machine to a car from the same year. An Alpha submarine had a titanium hull, could accelerate to 41 knots and dive at least 600 meters deep. First launch in 1968. And so I was excited when Julian Kampmann from Polio 24 sent the clock for a MIG fighter plane. Julian had originally offered to gift me the watch because he knew my little weakness and he's just a nice guy. Plus, he has one sitting in his office and probably he thought it would be a good fit for me too. But I was a complete fool. I thought, nope, I don't need it, the apartment is full enough. And so we agreed on that giveaway. The clock arrived then and I was pretty excited about the black dial and this oddly old-fashioned looking hands. Great was also winding the thing. I thought I was winding a tank. The watch then sat in my study for a couple of days, making tick-tock very loud, and with each tick the fan's anger grew inside me. I should just keep the thing. But of course I couldn't, so the editor of Caseback Watches gave the fan another slap and the watch traveled to Thailand to its lucky winner. Damn. In March 2021, Caseback Watches hit the mark of 20,000 subscribers, and for me this was a super big thing. I mean, if you compare this with the major watch channels, then it's still small. But I realized that I'm in direct competition with people who do the YouTube watch thing full time, full focus. And I had this year pressure from the day job, the corona crisis of course, kid at home during homeschooling, and despite all that I could deliver an interesting program that I like, and 20,000 other people. And then Comic, a watch model with the Instagram site The 470, sent me the Tim 20K Vostok watch. I was so blown away by that. The look, the craft behind it and the rarity. This was by far the best watch experience I had in 2021. And every time now when I feel a bit down, when something doesn't work out as planned, I wear this watch and I instantly feel better. Take this as an advice, dear viewer, put at least one piece in your collection that resonates, that is able to affect your mood in a positive way. Okay, welcome back. I hope you've enjoyed this little tour, and I think those timepieces prove that people who claim that they are experts, they know every bit of the watch world it's impossible. The watch world is huge and full of surprises, and that's so good. Okay, and now we're at the end of this video. If you are still in need of a Christmas gift, please check out casebackwatches.com, my online shop for fine leather goods. And as always, if you want to have your updates and sneak previews, then join me on Instagram. It's caseback_Tim. And now let me thank you very much for your attention and until next time.